What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Jamar, man. I'm back at it again. Today we got why do bees die after stinging? If y'all new to the channel, make sure to drop a like, comment, and subscribe. Man, subscribe to the channel, help your boy grow. Let's get right into it.
You ever been stung by a honeybee? Man, it's the
No.
worst. It
Thank
burns for
Jesus.
hours and then swells up, leaving a big red welt for days. But as bad as it feels, it's actually the bee that gets the raw end of this deal. Because a few minutes after it stung you, it dies. Wait, why would an animal have a self-defense mechanism that's more deadly to it than the thing it's attacking? That doesn't make sense.
It really
Well, there's
don't.
actually
I
a
always thought
lot
about
more
this
to this
sometimes,
kamikaze defense mechanism than meets the eye. So put on some thick gloves and get ice ready, because we're about to take a pretty painful look into the secrets of bee stings. Step-by-step sting. You might not want to admit it, but if you've ever been stung by a bee, it was probably
Bro,
your
look
fault.
at it, bro.
Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but in general, bees only sting humans if we approach their hives or threaten them with aggressive or reckless behavior.
So y'all be
If a
messing
bee
with
is
the
hunting
bees,
for
bro. I don't be
pollen,
messing with
they'll
them,
leave
bro.
us alone, unless we handle them roughly or step on them. Now, you may have
Ooh,
heard
step
that
on-
all bees
Woo!
die after stinging. Well, actually, only the honeybee does. When any bee stings you, it simply inserts its stinger into your skin. In the case of honeybees, however, their stinger is made of two barbed lancets, giving it rougher edges that can act as tiny hooks. Because of these lancets, when a honeybee inserts its stinger into the skin, it can't pull the stinger back out. And that doesn't stop the honeybee from trying, though. The second they try to take off, not only is their stinger pulled out, but the muscles, nerves, and parts of
so
their
it's basically
digestive
like they don't
system
know
attached
that
to
they're
it
gonna
are
die.
torn out of their backside as well. It's a nasty way to go if you ask me, but there's an even more tragic element to it. When honeybees
Ugh,
sting
that's really
insects,
disgusting,
as they
bro.
often do when bugs try to attack the hive, they can remove their stingers just fine. It's all down to the amount of fiber in the animal's skin that causes the stinger to lodge. Those barbed lancets are designed to dig in as deep as possible, and when it comes to a mammal's fibrous skin, there's no removing that stinger without ripping it out. So those poor honeybees
about
have
it, bro. That's
no
nasty,
idea that when they sting us, the impact
What do y'all
will
think
kill
of
them.
that, bro? I ain't
But
gonna
back to us humans. What impact does a bee sting really have on our skin? Well, bee stings inject a venomous toxin called melatonin, which gives the sting its painful effect. And if you're allergic to bee stings, it's melatonin that you're allergic to. The toxin causes redness and swelling at the site of the attack,
Boy, I got a
and
bubble
since
for
bee
a
venom
while.
dissolves in water, it's able to spread around the human body with ease. If you weren't aware, 60% of the human body is water, so there's a lot of spreading to be done. Now, if you are ever stung by a honeybee, you must remember to remove the stinger immediately. Alongside those muscles and nerves, the pulsating sacs of melatonin the honeybee leaves behind will continue to pump venom into the skin until they're removed. So you better pick them out as soon as possible. The longer it's in there, the more melatonin is injected, and the itchier and more swollen the area will get. As this poor guy found out when a bee stung his tongue.
Oh,
Ugh,
hell
I'm reaching
no.
for the ice just thinking about it. Sounds
Come on,
painful.
bro.
But you know what literally can't hurt? Hitting those like and subscribe buttons down
Facts,
below.
y'all hit the
All
like,
done?
man, hit the
Great.
like button for me,
Now,
bro.
we've
Subscribe
seen
to
how
the channel, help me
honeybees
grow,
meet
man.
their
Help me
fate.
grow.
But why do
not?
they
It's
decide
free,
to
bro.
sting?
Subscribe,
And how do they
like.
deal
Come on,
with
man, it's
butt-dwelling
free.
parasites like this? Well, stick with me to find out. Stingless bees. Now, to anyone terrified of bees, what I'm about to say might sound like a joke. A lot of bees are actually unable to sting. That's right. All male bees and many female bees from different bee families simply cannot sting. In fact, the Andrenidae are an entire family of bees whose stingers are so drastically reduced, they couldn't sting you if they wanted to. There's also another group of bees called the Meliponini, also known, literally, as stingless bees. These tend to be found in subtropical regions like Australia, Africa, Southeast Asia, and parts of Brazil and Mexico. In fact, most bees in Central and South America are stingless. So if you really, really hate bee stings, now you know where to head on vacation. So without a usable stinger, how do stingless bees defend themselves? Well, like many other insects, they bite instead. However, just like their stinging cousins, these bees use their bite to cling on to their enemy to the death, either theirs or the enemy's. So they're just as self-sacrificial as those bees with stingers. On second thought, I take back what I said about ideal vacation destinations. Nowhere is safe. Like regular bees, stingless hives have been known to consist of anywhere between 3,000 to 80,000 workers. That being said, only a small number of stingless bee species produce enough honey to be farmed by humans. But that doesn't mean we haven't found use for them.
A fear of small circles. I forgot what it's called. I got the ad plan, so man, subscribe to the channel.
Because of their relatively harmless nature, many people, especially in Brazil, choose to keep stingless bees as pets. So if you're looking for a pet but don't fancy any of the traditional options, a stingless bee colony might be what you're looking for. It won't require walking, you wouldn't have to pick up its poop, and you could get a little free honey at the end of it.
Man, who got a
Suddenly my dog is looking like a bit of a bum investment.
Y'all weird if y'all gotta pay
the stinging scheme.
You got one.
Bringing it back to bees that can sting, have you ever wondered how a bee makes the decision to use its stinger? Well, to answer that question, we first have to understand pheromones. A pheromone is a chemical or a mixture of chemicals released by an organism that affects the behavior of other members of the same species. So it's information communicated mainly by an organism's sense of smell. The idea that there are chemical messages floating around us all the time may sound a bit crazy, but pheromone signaling like this is essential to a bee's survival. For example, a primer pheromone causes long-term changes in the physiology and behavior of a bee. Yep, a chemical signal alone can literally alter a bee's body during development. Whoa. But a releaser pheromone causes a rapid change in behavior. So, alarm pheromones, which are a type of releaser pheromones, are emitted immediately after a bee stings something. This alerts other bees to something like a threat entering the hive, instructing all those that can sense the pheromone to attack the intruder. But when do they know how to stop? Well, a team of researchers from the universities of Constance and Innsbruck helped answer this question in 2021. They found that bees base their decisions about whether to sting or not almost solely on the amount of this alarm pheromone in the atmosphere. In addition to this, they learned bees hold two internal thresholds that measure the pheromone's level, one that tells them when to begin stinging and one that tells them when to stop. Almost like an internal thermometer, but for violence.
Almost like a robot.
These pheromones can also help the bees determine the extent of the threat they face, with more pheromones in the air indicating.
If y'all enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like, comment, and subscribe. Man, y'all subscribe to the channel. If y'all ever been stung by a bee, y'all make sure to drop a like, man. Look, man, I'm out.